I'm that bull in the hood. New lamb truck got the bull in the hood. Black and red looking like the bulls hit the hood. 23s, oh, they got the bull sitting good. This game 6, this can't miss. Shooting my shot, this ain't fish.
Welcome back, Bulls Nation, to another episode of the Nothing But Bull podcast. I'm your host, Derek, and as always, I'm with my main man, Justin. Justin, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just another day above dirt, as they say. Living the high life.
And of course, we have Melissa. Melissa, how's it going?
What up, gang? How you doing? I got my little hat on. You know, this is made by Ross. He runs the AK Fan Club account, so check out the hat. See the emojis?
See red.
See red, see red.
Thank you for explaining that to me, Melissa, because you know how I am with emojis and not understanding things very well.
You follow the Bulls account. You see this one all the time, right?
I know I should have done a lot better, but I was even slow picking that one up because you know how I am.
Don't be like that. Not the self-deprecation within 2 minutes of the pod opening.
I'm like, Justin, have you been in the Discord this season? Because
I have not been in the Discord because I felt like people were like talking very harshly about some of the players, and like I started like feeling a certain kind of way, like defending certain players that I don't even feel like defending. Like, I found myself defending like Kobe White, like people like just trashing Kobe, and I'm like, okay, I understand like being disappointed about how people have progressed or have not progressed as we would like. But like I felt like people were like talking about him like he was Denzel Valentine or something. I'm like, he does not deserve that much hatred. So I figured I'd take a step back, from the emotion, because I knew that once the season started, that emotion was gonna come flooding back in, and I needed to be careful about that. You all know how that goes. Like, I'm trying to temper myself, so yeah.
Well, I asked that question because with the game time alerts, it's always that emojis in front of it to let people know, hey, the game's about to start.
Before every single game, they drop this.
Well, you know what it was also, Derek? Like I opened up the app, and like at the past couple of days, I was looking at it and I was like, oh, nobody's saying anything. And then like I would close it, not realizing that I was doing what I was doing initially, which is just going to that regular page, and like I was sending out text or sending out messages to absolutely no one. So I was on the wrong page again too. So that's another reason why.
Man, it's funny that he said people are talking about Kobe like he's Denzel, but Denzel has a summer league championship. Kobe has
Don't go there. Summer league championship. Whatever.
Oh no. What happened to the Ben Gordon talk? Kobe being a Ben Gordon that lived for one day.
Who said that? Was that what was going on in the Discord?
I saw a lot of people talking about that on Twitter and stuff.
I think that's like something from Stacy, where he's saying you let him off the bench as a scorer in the Ben Gordon role, and
like a 6-man.
I don't see it.
Do you all see, like, when I look at Kobe, like, first of all, like there was like some of his passes that I was looking at, especially like in the last game, like he like was trying to like start a break, and I was like, are you like at all comfortable like passing the people like and actually starting a break? And I was like thinking back to when he was in college, and I was like, did they just allow him to do whatever it is that he wanted to do, or did he have like legit point guard skills at North Carolina? Because I'm not saying that to be like to make a joke. Like I honestly did not watch Kobe play at all. in North Carolina. And I was wondering about that because there are just times where I'm like, just a simple pass, like a simple bounce pass. Looked like he was having some challenges doing that. So I don't know. Did you all ever watch him before he put on a Bulls uniform at all?
No. All I can say is college basketball is a lot different from the NBA, and he
But he
probably
played.
got away with doing some stuff that just isn't going to work here.
But wasn't he a point guard in high school too, or was he more of a combo guard in both high school and college?
I think he was more of a combo guard because he is not a point guard at all.
Yeah, like everything just seems like it's so rushed for him. Like it's a rushed moment. Like his mind is trying to catch up to, the actual physical execution. And I even noticed that with some of his shots, when he's not settled, like the shot comes off and it's like it's rushed. It's not like there's no arc on the shot. And you can tell like from the release that there's not a good chance of it actually going in. But once he actually gets settled and he gets comfortable and he's making like those, just two dribbles or maybe one dribble and he's taking the shot, it looks a lot better coming out of his hand. And it just got me to thinking, like, when he was trying to make a bounce pass. I think it was to Dalen, if I'm not mistaken. It was somebody. I honestly can't remember who it was. And they would have had like a sure fast break 2 points, no problem. And I was like, he looks so uncomfortable making just a simple bounce pass. So that's why I was wondering about it. And I'm not trying to like clown him or anything. I was just, I'm trying to understand, what his strengths and weaknesses are. And I know more people say he has more weaknesses than strengths, but I think that Kobe still can add something to this team, as was shown in that second game. I thought that playing with a bunch of ball handlers where he didn't have to make those decisions really, really did help him. So
He's so streaky, and that's what it was. We thought that if we could just have him spot up and get him the ball and shoot, we're good. That's all we need Kobe for. But unfortunately, he's just been so streaky. I haven't completely given up on him yet. I know a lot of people have, but yeah, we just need some consistency. If all he can do is all we just need him to do is shoot. And I know he's not like the greatest defensively, and when he's a little bit limited with the way his body is structured and his hip movements and stuff. But if he just get some consistency in shooting, literally that's all we needed from him. And he was a combo guard. I just had to verify he was a combo guard in high school. You're right, Derek.
Yeah, I'm out on Kobe.
Yeah,
I'm
I know you're
out. This guy bricks so many wide open threes. Like nobody's around him. There's no rush. Clank. I'm just like, come on, Kobe. Really? You don't do anything else good. You're supposed to be that shooter. Streaky, yes, but wide open, nobody is in your airspace. There's like, you're a good 10 feet away from other people. Why are you bricking these shots? Every time. It's not like once or twice, it's every time. Because nobody makes 100% their open shots, but every time he's wide open, he does not make it.
I don't get it. And he did decent last year, like the first half, prior to All-Star. I don't know what happened. I really don't. And what bothers me too is like it just seems like he's all over the place. Like it seems like his head is all over the place. It doesn't seem like he's like in the game. Like I don't notice any particular like focus. He just seems like he's very lackadaisical and kind of like in his own world. I don't see the urgency there either. But
I don't know if it's like urgency or if it's like awareness. Because like when he first came into the league, I think all Bulls fans were like, hey, this dude can actually go out there and hoop. And, at some points during the game, probably even help carry your offense. And it's interesting watching so many people turn on him like the way that they have. And I'm not saying like he doesn't deserve his fair share of criticism, because I think a lot of the players on the team deserve some criticism for the way that they've performed the past couple of years, even with, COVID coming and everything and with injuries. But, I don't know. To me, it's just kind of, I'm not out on him yet. And part of that also is, who are you bringing in to help mitigate like any of the issues that he is having? Like I've seen some people mention like Jordan Clarkson, for example, and I'm like, Jordan Clarkson is a way worse shooter than Kobe, and it's not me just making it up. Like, you can go and look at his stats. 2-point shooting, 3-point shooting, they're worse than Kobe. So I'm just curious, just like when people are like, oh, just get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him. Who are you bringing in, and for what money? So that's why I'm like, he's here. He can do some things that other people can't do. Granted, some of the players look like that they've been working on their 3-point shot. So, less rope for him to work on, but, I'm not completely sold on him just yet.
I like that you said awareness, because that's an attribute. And if you play NBA 2K, you have the awareness attribute. You try to get all your attributes up to like 99. Kobe's awareness is at 20. He has no awareness of what's going on, how to control the pace of the game. He just shoots wide open threes and hope they go in. I would not want Clarkson.
Turn on NBA 2K right now. Take a screenshot of Kobe. I want to see his awareness right now. I want to see that 20%. You got to do it right now. Turn it on.
I'm not saying his awareness on the game is 20. I'm saying in the real life, his awareness is 20. Like, I would not want Jordan Clarkson because he's a worser, older Kobe. I mean, bring Carmelo Anthony. He can hit threes. Bring him in. Get rid of Kobe.
That is interesting that you say that, because like they need some more shooting, some more solid shooting, and Carmelo had a good season with the Los Angeles Lakers last year. And Carmelo can still, he's a lot better at rebounding than what people give him credit for. So
and that is size that we need.
Yeah, that is interesting.
We brought Dre in for rebounds, but the way he shot those threes yesterday.
Hey, my man was looking good. I don't know what this was. Like, was he like making an arrow or something? I don't know what that meant, but he looked good.
I think that was like, I got ice in my veins.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he was doing.
I think that's what that was.
No, he wasn't doing that. Why would he be doing it? He doesn't shoot 3-pointers.
It's 3 of 3.
He's 3 for 3, man. He's 100% at the 3.
Hey. Y'all were the one talking to me, oh, it's just preseason. Now you would have flipped that around and said he's making 3-pointers in the preseason, so like he's ready, he's got ice in his veins. No. I will take inconsistent Kobe.
He said he had ice in his veins. We didn't say it.
Derek's just translating for you, Jess.
No. That has to mean something.
Kobe was 1 of 5 from 3. Andre Drummond was 3 of 3, 100% from 3. He had ice in his veins last night.
3 for 3. You seen him at practice from the threes? What you talking about?
I've also seen Kobe at practice making 3-point shots.
Yeah, but he didn't make them in the game, and Dre
1
did.
for 5, 3 for 3. I don't know.
So we do have a special guest this week because of schedule. We had to talk to him during last week, so we're going to go ahead and show you the interview we had with Chicago Bulls digital content manager, Nico Tan. And we are joined by Nico from Chicago Bulls Digital. Nico, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, y'all? We're going right straight into it.
Yep, straight into it.
All
What up, Nico?
right, Melissa,
How
do we
you
have
doing,
tape?
Nico?
I was trying to point it out to you. I'm like,
Matching hats.
Oh snap! This is the Bulls Fest one.
yeah.
Yeah, I just got this. Like my new favorite.
I love it.
Was there a mess up?
Right.
I don't
What's
have
that? Yeah, you didn't get the you didn't get the
No,
deal? We gotta
I
get you
do.
that.
Any book here that you have to pass to me,
Yeah,
that
we
would be
might have
great.
some stuff lying around for y'all. Just, send me an address after this call.
Will do.
All right, Nico, thanks for coming on. For people who don't know what you do, you want to explain to the viewers?
Yeah, well, appreciate y'all for having me. I'm just gonna tell y'all right away. I know y'all have had Adam Amin, y'all have had Ronnie Brewer. I don't know. I don't think I'm as interesting as those folks, but I'll try to be. I'm Nico. I'm a digital content manager with the Chicago Bulls digital team. Um, I'm part of a super talented team that basically strives to give Bulls fans the best content possible, the best photos, the best graphics, the best videos. Um, we take our jobs very seriously, but we also like to have fun with it. Um, I guess for me personally, this December will be 3 years with the Bulls, going into like technically my fourth season. Um, I look as at my position as like a super fortunate spot where I basically just I am a servant for the fans, right? I grew up a basketball fan myself. I grew up in Florida, a big Magic fan. I remember being the kid that would watch every single basketball game, talking about, the NBA with my friends. Back then for me, growing up in Florida, it was like my team was the Orlando Magic, which probably isn't as fun of a fandom as the Bulls, but I grew up rooting for players like Dwight Howard in his prime, Jameer Nelson, Hedo Turkoglu, going back even like Carlos Arroyo. Um, those are like my guys. And I remember like going to school, middle school, high school, and just talking about like the NBA, the Magic, not even just the Magic, Kobe versus LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, Derrick Rose, obviously. Ben Gordon was one of my favorite players who wasn't a Magic player. Joakim Noah. And then just like obviously back in like 2008, 2009, 2010, the internet was very different. But now like everybody consumes, highlights or content with their phones on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. So we just try our best here at the Chicago Bulls to, give y'all the content that y'all crave and y'all want and y'all deserve so that you can continue to be engaged with the team. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell.
So
But
you
you
said you grew up.
do a lot of things. I was just gonna say, Nico, you do a lot of great things for the Chicago Bulls. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to talk to you because I saw that you went to the University of Florida, and I'm a Hurricanes fan, so I didn't know how to feel about that with you coming on. But with you being from Florida, because I'm from Florida as well, was this something that you always saw yourself moving into? Was this like the plan from a young age? Like, how did you get into the position that you're in right now?
Yeah. So growing up when I was like really little, like I wanted to be a doctor, just like a lot of like immigrant parents tell their kids and like try to instill in their minds, and I thought I wanted to do that. And then I realized at a really young age that I wasn't good at math and science, and that stuff didn't interest me. Um, you know, I remember growing up, like I said, watching like a ton of basketball. Probably starting around 2006, and then just watching whatever all the Magic games in addition to like whatever showed up on ESPN, um, or TNT, ABC. Um, and I just remember like that just became my favorite thing when I was a kid. Um, I remember watching I remember like before there was Woj and before there were shams, you would find out news about the NBA on the ESPN
Wow.
ticker at the bottom when it came to trades. I remember growing up a Magic fan, I say we, like the Magic traded like Steve Francis to the New York Knicks for like Trevor Ariza, and you didn't find that out on your phones. You found that out like on the TV, like wow, like it was like a lot. It felt like it was very different back then. But I mean, I guess to answer your question, I knew I wanted to do something that like I was passionate about. Basketball and NBA, even though I was not a player or even like very good, like even in PE growing up, it's something that like really excited me. Um, in high school and college, long story short, I wanted to be a sports reporter. One of my idols was the late great Stuart Scott, Sports Center anchor, absolute legend. I kind of wanted to be like a version of him. And then in college, I realized my true passions were kind of behind the camera, instead of in front of the camera. So I worked in the NFL a little bit, doing like social media, video production, and whatnot. But I actually worked for the Atlanta Falcons for a couple of years before coming here. But I always had my eye on the NBA. I always had my eye on the Bulls. I was raised in Florida, but my family immigrated from the Philippines to Chicago in like the early 90s. I actually grew up in Lakeview. I lived the first 4 years of my life in Lakeview. And I always wondered growing up in Florida what it would have been like to grow up in Chicago or grow up here. And so during my time in Atlanta, doing content there, I always kept an eye on a position with the Bulls. But I wanted to come here if there was like a position that felt right for me, right? So I didn't apply to anything that like I didn't felt like I could do. And then a social media kind of position opened up, and I was like, okay, I feel like I have the expertise and the resume to do this. And yeah, that's how I kind of landed here in a nutshell.
So it didn't take much to convert you to rooting for the Bulls.
No, absolutely not. It's so I mean, growing up a Magic fan, people when I bring that up to people, people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like that must have been so hard." They went to the finals in 2009. Like that was my freshman year of high school. People forget that Nike was doing all these commercials promoting, like, remember the puppets with the Kobe puppets and the LeBron puppets? That's because everybody thought it was going to be LeBron versus Kobe in the finals, and the Magic kept that from happening. Beat LeBron, and the Cavs. Who else was on that team? Like Mo Williams, maybe Zydrunas Ilgauskas. They beat those boys like pretty like it wasn't even a fight. I think they did it in 5 or 6 games, and then played Kobe and lost to Kobe and Gasol and Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom and Derek Fisher. But no, and then the Magic have had a couple of tough years. I think they're pretty promising franchise right now, especially watching Banchero in summer league. But no, it didn't take much for me to. The Magic are like my second team now. The Bulls are definitely my number one team.
I was just gonna ask you that. So if Magic and Bulls are playing, you're rooting for the Bulls.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love this team. I love this city. I love obviously the players, but also everybody around the players, the staff. Yeah, I'm all Bulls now.
Love it. So your first year, what was that like? What were your experiences like just joining the Bulls? And if you have like a most memorable experience from your first year, maybe involving like players or anything like that?
Yeah, so my first year, I joined in the middle of the 2019-2020 season. I remember I accepted the job when I was still in Atlanta, and the first game that I watched on my TV was Bulls against Charlotte, and that's the game where Zach LaVine went off for he had like 11 3-pointers or like 13 3-pointers, like something crazy, and then um the Bulls rallied with a furious comeback. Ryan Arcidiacono like stole the ball, like tossed it over to Zach at the corner and like hit the game-winning three, and it was like pandemonium. I was like, oh shoot, like this is the team I'm joining. Like this is wild. But um, when I first joined, the team was like very different than when I joined now. Um, I think one thing that's noteworthy coming over from the NFL to the NBA, I thought it would be very similar in the fact that like this is like professional sports, right? Like it's players, it's like world-class athletes. But I guess for me, working at an NBA franchise or going from the NFL to the NBA. In the NFL, it's one game a
Mm.
week, right? And it's usually on Sunday, and it's usually at, in Central Time, it's at noon. And the NBA, it's like there are 3 or 4 games a week, and they're all at night. And I remember that was like the biggest adjustment for me is like, wow, there are games on all the time. And I knew that as a sports fan. I watched all the games, but like being a part of it, I was like, it gave me a real respect for um not only the athletes, but everybody who kind of like lives in this world. It's like when you're in season, like you're in season. But I mean, stories from that time, I wish I had some exciting stories. That was the season I joined, and then like the pandemic happened like quickly after. Um, I remember when the season shut down. I'm sure you all can remember where you were when, Shams or Woj like tweeted that the NBA season was suspended. I was at the team was in Orlando, and I was actually having dinner with the Orlando Magic graphic designer at a fried chicken spot in downtown Orlando, where we both got the Shams tweet that like the NBA season got suspended. And I remember that was like a holy crap moment. Like, what does this mean for us?
Mhm.
We were supposed to play the Magic the next night, and then we obviously didn't play the game. Everybody got back on the plane, and I remember it was just like mass confusion about like, what does this mean? Like, there was no vaccine at the time. I remember everybody like got onto the team plane, and everybody's like wiping their seats with like um little Kleenexes and stuff. But that was like a crazy moment. But I mean, really, other than that, for my first year, I don't have too many stories. One of my favorite players from that team was Daniel Gafford, though. Super nice player. Um, I think I was happy to see him have success in Washington. Um, if I feel like if we would have had him with Lonzo Ball, like just imagining like Lonzo Ball and Daniel Gafford in the pick and roll, that would have been awesome. But yeah, that first year, especially with the COVID year, that was something else.
Yeah, that's a way to break in to the NBA is it being shut down. Like I remember I'm sitting there and get the Woj tweet. I'm like, Rudy Gobert, you just had to touch the microphones, man.
Oh my gosh. That was something. I
Do
couldn't
you
believe
remember?
you did that.
You remember where you were, Melissa, when you found out the season was suspended?
I do. I was at work and it was very upsetting. It was a little, I mean, everybody was freaked out. It's just the fear of the unknown, right? So that was like the nail in the coffin of like, okay, we have to be really careful because we don't know what's gonna happen. It was a rough time for everybody. Hopefully everybody made it out, unscathed, but um thankfully I did, and hopefully your families did too. But I think everything was just it was a completely different time. But yeah, I do vividly remember that. It was freaky, but we're here now. It changed a lot of things too with just the way the world moves. But I think it also made us appreciate community more. Like that whole time period of just, I know I'm veering off basketball, but the time period of just like social distancing and like losing human interaction, I think that just like made us, for me at least, it made me appreciate human interaction more in community. So that's the silver lining, I think. And I think there was also a transitional period for a lot of people with getting, I know a lot of people lost their jobs during that time. I know a lot of people went through health scares. So I think that's another silver lining too. If you made it out, like you come out with a different perspective on life. So um, I totally veered off basketball, but yeah, we
No,
went
but
to the philosophical side of things.
no, but that's real life, and that's why I think I feel very fortunate in in my job, and I'm really only speaking for me, but I realize that at the end of the day, like basketball is like just a game, but it's like not life or death, right? My dad is a doctor, my mom is a nurse. Like to me, like in my life, like those are the real heroes, but people use basketball, as an escape, or like basketball brings people together. Like I believe all three of you were at Bulls Fest, like just to see so many like Bulls fans like come together for their love of the Bulls and meet new people, and just share an interest in like this team and like share stories about, I was, I grew up, I watched the 90s Bulls like in this neighborhood of Chicago. I have the same Derrick Rose jersey. Um, no, you're right. Like COVID really amplified like the need for community. And I think everybody can appreciate community now that we're not out of the woods yet, but we're farther removed from we're a couple years removed from COVID now.
How did that change the roles and responsibilities that you had at work when you finally had to come back? And what were they having you? Did you have anything to do when the season was off?
Yeah. So this is kind of how I got into photography because when I started with the Bulls, I had zero photography skill set. A lot of people don't realize this, but when I started with the Bulls in December 2019, I thought my role kind of was at the time was to be one of the main publishers from the at Chicago Bulls handles, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the other channels, bulls.com. But when I started traveling with the team, one of the things they asked me as somebody who's like with the team on the road is that I take photos with the camera that they gave us. And I remember thinking, I was like, you want me to represent the Bulls as the team photographer on the road when I really don't have this much experience? And they're like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. Um, so they sent me on the road, and it was really a credit to everybody here for their confidence in me. I started doing it, photography when I first started at the Bulls, and my photos were just okay. I was taking photos at the games, and I remember looking at them, and I was like, wow, these could just be so much better. I remember Zach Levine posted one of my photos on his Instagram, and I was like, wow, he liked it enough to post it. I've just started doing this. So the season shut down, COVID happened. I used that time when the Bulls weren't playing. I was like, okay, I need to learn this skill and refine this skill because representing the Bulls, like the Bulls deserve like nothing but the best. So I got a camera. I like learned the camera. I watched all these YouTube videos about it, and then staying at home in Florida, Ocala, Florida, I shot my high school football team's regular season games. And that's where I learned like photography, really just going out to this high school football, my high school football team, and just taking pictures during the games, before the games, after the games. And the players were all super appreciative because it's a small town, not many photographers, take the time to do that. And that's where I got all of my mistakes because I knew at some point, like, I would be coming back to Chicago and shooting games. I was like, let me get the skill, let me learn the skill like right here, get all my mistakes out. And then I could come back to the Bulls like with a really refined skill set in photography. And what I learned my first game shooting with the Bulls after COVID, it was against the Indiana Pacers. And I realized that shooting high school football on a camera is 100 times harder than shooting an NBA game for so many different reasons. So I was able to like rejoin the Bulls, travel with the team. And it obviously did take some adjustments, but I was able to like take quality photos from the Bulls just because I'd used COVID and the time there to really like learn the skill and add this to my bag. Like, I guess similar to like, I don't know, Zach learning how to do left-handed layups in the off season. You know what I mean? Just like adding to your like creative bag. So really that's probably the main thing COVID did for me. Like I learned an entire skill set that I use all the time with my job as a digital content manager here with the Bulls.
So when you came back, were you using your camera or the team's camera?
I had used COVID to buy my own camera since I was in Florida, and I bought my own lens. I shoot on a Canon R6 with a Sigma lens. Yeah, and it's like my baby. That's the camera I take on the road. I've shot DeMar's game winner against the Pacers on that camera. I shot DeMar's game winner against the Wizards the next day on that camera. Have shot many great moments with it. Yeah, and just blessed to be in a position to capture history, especially with such a fun team.
Right now, you said you didn't have this skill set at first, and you used COVID to refine it, and then you end up shooting in Paris with Alex Caruso. to promote the Paris game in January. Did you ever think photography would be what's taking you to overseas and to Paris?
Yeah. Well, first of all, well, no, absolutely not. And I need to give a shout out to Joe Pinchin at Joe Pinchin. You know, I'll probably know him on Instagram. We work together on Bulls digital content. He's taught me pretty much everything I know about photography and has been like a mentor for me and a guide for me. I really wanted him to go on this trip with Caruso, because Caruso was doing international media to, you know, kind of promote the NBA and the Bulls going to Paris this upcoming January to play the Pistons. Um, and Caruso would be stopping in Paris and in London. And for you, those who don't know, Joe Pinchin is British, and he lived most of his life there. He has a British accent. You guys should definitely bring him on this podcast at some point. But I was like, Joe, you should definitely go on this trip. It's like one, it's dope. Two, it's like a free trip home for you. So I ended up going. I ended up coming off the bench for him. And it was dope, man. It was 2 days in Paris. It was 2 days in London. The NBA Europe people pretty much organized his schedule in a way that like there was an event like almost at every single point in time we were on the ground in Paris. I had never been to Paris. I'd never been to London. It was my first time in Europe really since I was like 6 or 7 years old. What was unfortunate though is that me and Alex and Chris from our Bulls TV, we were all there together. We were doing an event at the NBA store in Paris when we got a word from a tweet that the Queen had passed away.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
timing.
yeah, and we were and I was like, oh no, and obviously it was like super sad. I'm not super familiar with the royal family, but somebody in our travel party told us that like what this meant that for Alex's obligations in London and Europe, a lot of that was probably going to get canceled because the country would be in mourning. So sure enough, we were actually supposed to go to a Manchester City versus Tottenham Premier League game, which Alex was super excited about because if you follow him on Twitter, he's a huge Man City fan. That game ended up being postponed or canceled. So pretty much all of our plans in London got canceled, or at least for Alex. Alex, I think, did some of it virtually. But yeah, it was that's the blessing about this job, bro, is that like I'm very blessed to be in a position where I get to like capture like these players doing these phenomenal things, and I just hope I do them justice by taking great pictures, taking good pictures like Joe has taught me, and I give the players the photos, and it's always a compliment when they post them as well. So yeah, that was a great experience for sure.
Do you have a photo that you're most proud of capturing?
Oh, that's such a great question. Yeah, there's a couple. I mentioned like the game winners, the Mars back-to-back game winners. I was fortunate enough to be the photographer on that trip.
Real quick, back to that. How are you always in the right? How are you in the right spot? Like, it's just a matter of are you running? Are you just running to where the ball is to make sure you're in the best possible spot?
Yeah, so I think as a basketball photographer, you have to anticipate the moments, like what's gonna happen. So I think in that Pacers game, it was a tight game going into the fourth quarter, and I think with like about through almost the whole fourth quarter of that Pacers game, I was shooting from the stands. And I remember the teams were going back and forth, and I was like, okay, like this game has a potential to be like, in the final minute of the game, there's going to be a game tying shot or a game winning shot. So actually in my mind during like these game winning type scenarios, because that was the first time I was ever in a game winning scenario as a photographer, I always picture, Michael Jordan's like the shot against Cleveland.
Mhm.
What's the iconic like video and photos from that? You're like on the other baseline. You see like the Jordan's like in the middle, the shot goes in, he like jumps up and looks at the opposite basket and like does like he like jumps up in the air. So like I went to the opposite baseline from where the Bulls were shooting. And I anticipated like somebody on our team. I didn't know it was going to be DeMar. It could have been Zach. It could have been Vooch. It could have been whoever. just shooting a game-winning shot, and I used a lens that was a lot wider to try to capture like the crowd in the background in addition to the shot. What's crazy about, and I'll pull it up on this Zoom call. I know it'll be tough for people who are just listening on Spotify. But DeMar got the ball, and he was dribbling up the court, and there were like seconds were ticking down. And one of the, how on NBA courts there's like mop people, people that like wipe the floor and stuff.
Yep.
One of the Pacers mop people walked right in front of me as DeMar was rising up for his shot. And also I remember thinking this too, is like in the last like 10 seconds, like the clock is winding down. Not even the last 10 seconds, like the last 3 or 4 seconds. I remember thinking like DeMar isn't doing anything with the ball. He's like just dribbling. I was like, you have to do something. So he goes up with like less than a second left or maybe a second left. And he obviously like drills like this insane one-legged shot. This is the photo. I'm showing it on here. Just like the wide angle photo of that moment. It went in, and then from there it's like all instincts, right? So I captured that game winner. Very fortunate enough to capture like the game winner on the next night. And it happened like right in front of me as well. I think a part of it is luck for sure. Like in the Wizards game winner, like he shoots it over Bradley Beal. That could have happened like on the opposite side of me where I don't get as good of an angle. But I think it's a lot of anticipation too, like what's gonna happen for me in like game winning scenarios. And I'm still honestly like pretty new to this. I knew that like if DeMar hit a game winner, I would want like the reactions right after of like his teammates, like or Zach Vooch and whoever, like hugging him and like smiling and stuff. So like I got a great photo of like DeMar surrounded by Io and
Good one.
Troy Brown is there as well. Zach's in the background too. Just looking at the King of the Fourth. So it's a lot of anticipation, and you have to have an eye for it. And I know if y'all did photography, like y'all would naturally anticipate these moments as well because you love basketball.
True.
I was just gonna ask you, we're all fans, but of course, with you being a professional, with you being new to this and everything, have you ever found yourself caught up like in the moment where you kind of forget that your job is to capture these moments, and you're just like, glued to what's happening, or are you always just in the moment, like just waiting to get that great shot?
That's a good question, Justin. I think for me personally, so growing up a big basketball fan, I didn't go to my first NBA game till I was a freshman in college, which was like, I went through like years without even going to my first NBA game. And even at my very first NBA game, I was literally in like the most upper deck, like the last level, like I could literally like feel the back against my wall. So it's like, it's always very surreal for me to be at these games. For me personally, it's usually like whenever they do like the national anthem is where I take my time to like kind of just reflect on my journey and how I got here, and how like 8-year-old Nico would have been so psyched even to be like in the same building as I was in yesterday in the preseason game against New Orleans. But once like the ball is tipped, like, and I think I speak for like other people on our content team, like we kind of lock in, especially as photographers. Like you only get like one moment or one chance to get some of these shots, and the moment comes and it goes. So I like to think that like myself, Joe, Jimmy Mitchell, one of the most talented graphic designers, and he takes photo. We also with a bunch of other like AP and NBA photographers. There's a lot of really talented like photographers like shooting Bulls games. Like you have to be on it. Like I feel a responsibility to like be on it whenever I have a camera in my hand, and I'm lucky enough to be filming these games. So I am a fan 100% while I'm shooting. But with the camera in my hand, I try to like get the moment and then like celebrate kind of internally, for sure.
So professionally, like the next time somebody like walks in front of you who is cleaning up something, are you gonna like push them out of the way, or like what do you do in that situation?
So I actually told this to one of the veteran NBA photographers. I was like, and I actually showed him one of my frames of DeMar's shot as he's going up for the game winner against the Pacers. You can see like the mop person like in my shot. Um, one of the veteran NBA photographers, like who's been doing this for decades, like looked at me and was like next time you like yell at the person to get out of the way, or like just something like that. But that's not quite in my nature to do something like that. I don't know how I would handle that moment, but it worked out. I got the shot. um we won the game, and now it's history captured by the Bulls for sure.
I interrupted you when I was asking you about your favorite moments because I got really excited about those DeMar shots. Were you going to mention another favorite moment
Oh,
you captured before I so
um,
rudely interrupted you?
uh, other photos come to mind. Ayo Dosunmu in a separate game against the Pacers. We always have big moments against the Pacers. Um, had that like game clinching dunk, um, like the rattling jam. I still remember like Adam Amin's call on it. Um, I think I have it right here. I was like very psyched about the
Mhm.
photo I captured there. I was also on the opposite baseline. You see Io like dunking the ball over two like Pacers defenders. That's one of my favorite photos from the season. Um, I was very, very lucky towards the end of last year. Um, Former President Barack Obama came to a Bulls game
Ah,
against the Celtics. And he was in the suite for a little bit. I captured a photo from him as well. So those are some of the ones that come to mind. But I'd like to think that like my best photos are yet to come for sure.
for sure. So how much urgency is there around like getting a photo uploaded? Like you have to throw an edit on it and upload it like ASAP as soon as a moment happens?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think, taking the photo itself, I think is one skill, but prepping that photo for social media in a timely fashion, and when I say timely, I mean like
Yeah.
seconds, is like a whole nother skill in itself. Um, this is where Joe and I have really kind of refined, um, distribution of the photos.
Mhm.
So typically in a game, me or Joe, if it's usually one or the other shooting any given game, um, we'll have our camera, right? We'll click, click, click. We'll take photos throughout the game, and then during like a timeout or a break in the action, we have these card readers that we put into our phones where we can just take the memory card out of our camera, put them in our phone. We have a photo editing software called Adobe Lightroom where we kind of put our edit on there to make the photo, a little bit more spicy, like a little bit more crisp for social media. And then we export that photo, and then we typically send it back to the digital team on Slack. Um, this is a process that takes seconds. Like if it's a minute, that's probably too long. A non-Bulls example where I think the power of speed, like just like is really palpable, is I was very lucky enough to shoot the All-Star game this past year. And I got this photo when Steph Curry was going off of him shooting a three from the corner, and him turning around, and the ball goes into the hoop as he's like turning around like
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
I remember when I shot
Oh my gosh,
this.
that was you?
Yeah, so I shot this dope photo of Steph. It was like his ninth or 10th three-pointer of the night, so he was having a big night. I remember thinking like, I was like, the Bulls obviously aren't going to use this. Like, I'm just going to see how fast I can do this right now. So he made that three-pointer. I got the photo. I looked at my camera. I was like, okay, this is a dope photo. Within, it didn't take more than like 35 seconds. I put the camera card in my phone, edited it, exported the photo with the new edit, and then I tweeted it from my own personal account. Um, and it was like got retweeted like a bunch. And I think it honestly got picked up just because how fast I was able to edit it and post it, right? That's a skill that me and Joe have been refining like over, the past couple years. Just because like He shoots a lot of games, I shoot a lot of games. It's almost like second nature to us now. So because it got out there so fast, like it was in the Twitter world, like almost immediately, like within a minute after it was taken, like it kind of took off, right? But that's what we do with all the Bulls photos. Typically, it's just like that moment was so special because it's like Steph is turning around and doing like Steph Curry things, right? But at any given moment, like if you see Joe on the United Center floor and he got like the dope, whether it's the Javante Green dunk or Zach LaVine dunk or DeMar DeRozan against Patrick Beverly doing like the too small celebration, like if he got the photo, it's probably within our Slack, within seconds, if not like a minute or two. We really pride ourselves on being able to quick turn photos because back in the day, like you would have to like put your camera card inside a laptop and edit it, and it just takes like social media doesn't stop, right? It just takes a little too long than we'd like, so we'd like to be pretty fast with it.
Yeah, you guys are super fast. Like as soon as a moment happens, it's within like a minute max or like 2 minutes even, and the photo's already up. At least I'm most on Twitter, so I see the stuff go up so quickly. I was wondering about that whole process. It is true though, like it is a matter of getting it up ASAP. So, but that Steph Curry photo is that's a pretty cool story. Like how good does that feel when you get like a retweet or like a repost? Like what does that feel like when you get a repost from somebody that's an athlete?
Yeah. I think for me, it's just validating to know that like my photos are good enough that the people actually in them like them enough to like share them with, not even just like their fans, but their friends and their family. Um, like I said, like a couple years ago, I never pictured myself, no pun intended, but I never imagined myself like doing this. Um, right. So, um, that's what makes it special to me that like somebody like the photo enough to like, publicly show it to like everybody they know. So, um, it's a great feeling. I mean, to me, like that's not necessarily like why I do it. Like I look at my phone and there's probably a bunch of photos that are like super dope and like would get a lot of likes or repost or whatever, but I for whatever reason like maybe I'm busy or something, I just haven't posted them. um it's just fun. It's almost like a sport, really. It's like when we're out there, it's like these are the most athletic human beings in the world. They're some of the most athletic human beings in the world, and then there's a bunch of other photographers who are super super skilled and honestly a lot better than I am at this, and a lot of photographers like legends in this game who have like captured the NBA for years and years and years. To be able to like, I might get a photo of a big play and seeing like the angles and the photos of the other photographers get. We can all have dope photos, right? But just seeing how the different shots each of us get, I mean, to me, it makes it so much fun.
But it's a real credit to you all with the quality of the work that you're putting out, plus the love that you're getting from people who are recognizing your work. With that speed that goes on, is there any like pressure that you feel to get things out like as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's a pressure we all put on ourselves as a content team. We talk all the time. We talk about our strategy. We talk about like how good we want to be. We want to be one of the best digital teams, in the NBA and all of sports. But that's really because we want our fans to have, the best content. If I get a dope photo of DeMar, it's because I want, and if I get a dope photo of DeMar and I feel pressure myself to like just get it to our digital team for them to post, or to get it even to myself for myself to post from our accounts. I just want other people to have that so they can like, you know, do whatever, like it, retweet it, or like send it to me. A great compliment is like if you take one of our tweets, photo, graphic, video, whatever, and you share it in your group chats, like as a social media and content professional, that's like almost the best compliment because you like something enough to like laugh about it with your friends or show it to your family or whatever. But we do what we do for the fans. Like all this content is really for Bulls fans or for basketball fans to enjoy, make memes out of, use as their profile pictures on Twitter, repost on their IG stories, print on their wall to have in their, their man cave or bedroom or whatever. Like, all of it's really for the fans, and that's a pressure that we want for sure.
Has there ever been any player that didn't like a photo you took? Because I know just from like speaking to other people that are kind of in the field, I've heard some stories of people in general that are particular about certain angles and stuff like that. Like, have you ever come across something like that? Because I know it's different during game time, but
Uh, at the Bulls, to be honest, I haven't really encountered that. I do remember when I was at the Falcons, there was I'm just gonna say his name because he's probably not gonna hear this, but there was a player, he was a tight end, his name was like Austin Hooper, and we posted a photo, like a wallpaper Wednesday, and it was just like his media day photo, and we posted it on his IG story, and it wasn't like a super intricate graphic or anything, it was like almost literally like his photo from media day. And then he reached out just saying like delete that, like delete that right now, like I don't look good in that. And to me it's like that's your photo, like that's you, like if you like I was like sorry that we posted that. I didn't take the photo or anything, I just like posted it. But no, I think part of being a photographer is like we have a good eye for stuff. We take a lot of photos, and a lot of photos have like, the guys like blinking or they make a weird face, or like some people aren't just as like photogenic as like other people. And then those photos are obviously not things that we post, right? Like, that's why we have like this burst on our camera where we can take like multiple images in like a very short period of time, and then we get the best one. So I think part of being a photographer is like, we want to make our subjects like look good, and part of that is like in their face and their body, and because if we make them look good, we make the Bulls look good, and we make our photography look good.
That's the content we need, Nico. It doesn't matter. You don't work for the Falcons anymore, and he's not even on the team anymore, so it doesn't matter. But it sounds like you guys well, it doesn't sound like you guys have to have like a tremendous amount of communication that's going on and instant, like in just like seconds. And it really shows that like your communication has really overlaid over into the fan community as well, because there's so many great things that fans have been able to get involved with. Is there anything that's coming down the line that we should be like you can give us a glimpse about?
When it comes to fans and fan communities, well, one, I think the Bulls fans, especially online, are some of like the most passionate, the most kind, and the most knowledgeable fan bases like in all of sports. It's been so cool to be like for an example, like I'm a Reddit lurker, a Bulls Reddit lurker. I don't really post in there that often, but I look at it after almost every game and almost every day, honestly, just to see like what's the temperature of Bulls fans. What do they think about this? How they feel about this last preseason game? What do they think about this trade? What do they think about the City Edition jerseys? I think Chicago fans differ from a lot of other fan bases, and like they're like super knowledgeable. They know their history, they know their homework. And then being inside whether these Twitter communities, Reddit, Discord, we have like some of like the funniest fans too. Like I have like a whole folder of memes. Melissa, I know you're like the Bulls meme queen. You have like every Bulls meme known to be in the Bulls universe. And then I know you also create your own. Like Bulls fans are some of like the funniest fans. Um, I'm trying to think of anything like coming down the line that's new. I mean, Camille is who you all know has done a lot. Whether it's like he launched our Discord like really before. I think there was only one other team that launched the team Discord before we did, and then he helped us put together this Bulls Twitter community at the start of the playoffs last season. And I think that's really just getting started. That's such a new thing that we really only had for a couple weeks just because it was the playoffs last year. I think we have a lot of ideas to really engage the Bulls Twitter community because it's like the most passionate of Bulls fans. We love giving away stuff, as you all know. I will say we just opened up a position on our digital team, a digital communities coordinator, which will be kind of like the main point person working with the Bulls Discord, the Bulls Twitter community, the Bulls Reddit, and just being that main touch point with, you know, all of the moderators and all of the just being all the liaison between like the Bulls and the communities, engaging them with giveaways, being a part of the conversation, not even just like after games, but during the games. Um, uh, we do things like we invited y'all to the draft this past year in the locker room. Like that was super dope. We want to do more of that type of stuff. Um, I mean, our Twitter audience, our Facebook audience, our Instagram audience, Twitter, TikTok audience is like super global and it's super large. And we love engaging them as a like mass community. But to be able to like have the personal one-on-one touch point with the fans is something like we are 100% aware of, and something that we are going to get even a lot better at moving forward. So there is more to come, and I'm excited for what we have planned this season.
Speaking of Bulls Discord, if you're on your mobile phone watching us on YouTube, scan the QR code. It'll take you right to the Bulls Discord. The game highlights section is full of nothing but Nico and Joe's photos that they captured during the game. Like I have a fun time uploading all of those.
I appreciate the shout out. No, I just try to keep up with Joe, man. Joe is such a talented photographer. I remember he started a little bit after me, and I remember when he started showing us the photos he was getting during games, I was like talking to our content team. I was like, this guy is like a cheat code, like when it comes to photography and the way and how fast he senses stuff. Not that many NBA, NFL, baseball teams have somebody like Joe. He captures some of the best moments. Like you guys should definitely bring him on this pod and ask him about his favorite photos. He took the slam cover photo of Zach and DeMar in the statement jerseys of the last season. Super gifted guy and like a super great at his craft, and he does more than just photography. He takes video, he does graphic design. He doesn't really flex the graphic design with the Bulls, but like he has that skill set too. I don't know, he does a lot here, and we're super happy to have him.
So how do you and Joe decide who's shooting what game? Do you guys like rock paper scissors for it, or it's like certain players going to be playing, so you want to have your shot at shooting him that night, or
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have no problem saying Joe is a much better photographer than I am. He's also had this skill set for a while. He shot like probably hundreds, if not thousands, of games in the British Basketball League when he worked over there. I essentially only take photos when I travel with the team on the road. Very rarely, and I maybe shot 3 home games last year, including I shot the Bulls versus Mavericks game where Zach had a 360 against the Mavs. That was one of the games I shot last year, but I rarely shoot at home. Joe will shoot almost every single home game, and then traveling, whoever travels is the team photographer. That's the answer in a nutshell. I'm very fortunate that, you know, before here I worked in the NFL and I traveled with an NFL team. So I've been to a lot of the major cities in the country. So when me and Joe have had this conversation the past couple of years about who should travel to what game, so who should shoot what game, I tell Joe like I have certain cities I like going to. I like Atlanta because I used to live there. I like Orlando because I have, you know, family in the area. I have like friends in New York, but we go there a couple of times a year with the Nets and the Knicks. I basically tell Joe, I was like, Joe, just take whatever cities you want, and then I'll take everything else, and that's completely fine with me because, like I said, like earlier in the conversation, like when I first started here, I didn't think I was going to take photos. That's honestly like a secondary part of my job and my skill set, and I'm happy to use that for sure. But I think Joe takes maybe 60% of the maybe 65% of the road trips, and I get so bad at math, like 35% of whatever's left.
So we can definitely reach out to Joe. You can whisper in his ear, and anybody else that you come into contact with, you could also mention that we are always looking for guests.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, the Bulls are, to me, I mean, it will be 3 years this December. Like, there are so many fascinating people at the Bulls, not just the players, the stat, the create. Honestly, like every single department, there's like something interesting, about everyone. And I'm not really just saying that. Um, one of our marketing leads that we just started here, one of his fun facts when he started here is that he used to like play basketball in college with 2 Chainz, which is like nuts. Um, uh, there's like everybody has like a fun fact like that. Like it's insane, and everybody's super talented at what they do, and everybody here is like such a good person as well. So yeah, I'm sure you guys know Joe. Jimmy Mitchell is super talented at what he does. He's at Hometown Designs. He has like some legendary graphics that I always see in the mall, you know, that t-shirt stand in
Dave
the mall where you have
Roseman.
like graphic shirts. I always see Jimmy's designs on there, whether it's like he has like a design of like Derrick Rose, picking up Derrick Rose from like, you know, Minnesota and Chicago. He has like a graphic of like Jordan has his arm around MJ, who has his arm, or Jordan has his arm around LeBron, which has his arm around Kobe. Like that's like another legendary one. Like he would be, I think, good for y'all to speak with. There's like a ton of people here, so there shouldn't be a shortage of guests in the future.
Yeah, Jimmy actually said that he'll come on, so we have to set up a date for him to come on. But yeah, we have to reach out to Joe to get him on as well.
Yeah, I'll put in a good word for y'all.
So
Appreciate.
what's a day in the life of Nico? Since you said like it's not all 100% photos. Like what's a day in the life of you at work?
Man, that's it changes like every day. Right. So um a day in the life. So me, I think one thing that I've learned, like working in sports, I'm a big advocate for making sure my mental health is in a good place, and I think that means something else for everyone. Last year, and I wanted to do this, so I'm not saying like this is like I did this against my will, but I worked every single regular season home and away game last season, all 5 playoff games and 3 out of the 4 preseason games. And the only preseason game I didn't work last year is because I ran the Chicago Marathon that day. So like all the other games, I worked. And for me, how I treat my mental health is like, I like to run, like whether on the treadmill or at the gym. So I try almost every morning to get some sort of exercise in. I think for other people it's different, right? That might be a book, that might be yoga, that might be, you know, whatever that outlet is, video games, a movie or something. Like I think it's super important for everybody who works in sports to get that done. But a day in the life of me, I always try to wake up and like get some sort of like get my body moving somehow. So that's what I did this morning, right? So I worked the preseason game last night, woke up this morning, and I mean, I'm also training for the Chicago Marathon this year. So I did like a little workout. Um, after that, I like answer emails. One of my responsibilities that I haven't talked about, I work with the legendary Hall of Famer Sam Smith. I publish all of his articles on bulls.com. If you guys don't read those, Sam Smith is he's an OG, he's a legend. Like I said, he's a Hall of Famer, but how he covers Bulls games and his like his recaps of games is like an art that not a lot of people do anymore. Sure, you can get like your recap from, you know, The Athletic, NBC Sports Chicago, the Tribune or whatever, and I read those as well, but Sam Smith's like his type of storytelling, like you can't get that anywhere else. So I would encourage you all and like, you know, Bulls fans everywhere to like read those like when you can. Those are on bulls.com usually the morning following each game. So this morning I published those. And then it's like, you know, whatever comes up from there. It could be like scheduling content. It could be, you know, sorting out our photos from the day before. I work with a lot of different departments at the Bulls, everything from community relations, which I work super closely with our at Bulls community team, which you can find at Bulls community on Twitter and Instagram. I work a lot with Bulls TV, with creative services. So it really depends, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of posting tweets or tweeting tweets, using our Twitter fingers, posting on Instagram, figuring out what should go up on Bulls.com, and giving, like I said earlier, like Bulls fans the best social media and digital experiences they can possible.
That stuff with Sam Smith, does that also include his mailbag? Because he's got some great stuff in there too.
Yeah. Those go up every single Friday. Sam Sam is a legend, man. Like I've had some dinners with Sam Smith. He has like some of the best stories. Going back obviously to the Jordan years, he was in The Last Dance. He has great I believe he co-wrote a book with Derrick Rose. He's like one of those people. I'm not like this, but you know, people who just have like great memories and they could tell a story from like 30 years ago, like it happened like yesterday. Like he is definitely like one of those people. And I'm sure one of my favorite things to do is like if I'm ever sitting with Sam, is I'll just think of a random player and I'll be like, Sam, tell me a story about Luol Deng, or tell me a story about Chris Duhon, or tell me something about Doug McDermott, and he'll think of something. So yeah, I also do those. I also help Sam publish those Ask Sam mailbags on Fridays.
Nice.
Yeah, I tweeted Sam to try to get him to come on. So if you see him, put in that word.
He would honestly be so great at this. I will ask. I should have thought of that earlier. I will ask him on your behalf for sure. He might not know what a podcast is, though. That's it. He barely knows what it is. He'll tell you himself.
Just tell me it's
Yeah,
a meeting.
just a
Just little
conversation
meeting,
with
that's all.
3 people.
So since you obviously worked the game yesterday, what did you think about our first preseason game?
So here's the thing, like, so during games, I am one of the main publishers, and I kind of like when I'm not taking photos, I kind of quarterback our coverage, figure out like, you know, we have like a big operation, and I kind of like quarterback, point guard, whoever, like figure out like which plays need to be cut, which photos we're gonna use, which we're gonna have both during and after the game. So honestly, I don't watch a lot of the games, and it's not until I get home I like to go on YouTube and really watch the highlights to figure out like what happened in the game. And obviously, I think you know, our defense could use some work, but it's just like one preseason game. You know what I mean? Like I remember growing up as a Magic fan, like watching preseason games, like you're excited because basketball is back, but these are the tune-up games, right? So I think our team has some work to do. I think Dalen was super, super exciting. Like he plays with like such a passion and tenacity. And like we were talking after the game, like he has like some Joakim Noah in him in terms of like, you know, the effort and the hustle and the heart. Like if Dalen can bring that to every single game, like Chicago is gonna like love him. So like that was exciting to see. I think there were some positives from the game, like Vooch. I'm a big Vooch stan, especially because as y'all know, I grew up a big Magic fan. I've basically seen all of Vooch's career. Like he looked in like mid-season form. Yeah, obviously not the result we want. The ending was like got kind of exciting. It became like a close game. But I'm super excited for the season. We finished with a 46-36 record last year. I do think like genuinely we can top that. Even in the Eastern Conference, that was a lot or much improved from last year.
Yeah, you said with Dalen, that energy. I mean, it seemed like the UC was like rocking when he was making those big plays and he got that steal into the fast break into the dunk. Like, does it ever get too loud during those moments where you're like, you look up and kind of forget that you're about to post something?
No, absolutely not. If one of y'all are ever with me when like during a game and I'm working, we have we call it a social suite. Our content team is like in this suite, like watching the game. And I'll be like watching the game and I'm working, right? I'm like typing stuff or like, talking to people about what's going to go out and stuff. But like if a big play happens, like there's like this rule in journalism, right? Like no cheering in the press box, right? You're supposed to like be calm and professional, and like if there's a game winner in front of you, you're not supposed to react because that's like one of those old school rules, no cheering in the press box. For me, like being a part of a team, I was like, we can cheer for the team. We are the team. So like I'll be up there and other people in the suite too will be like cheering and yelling, being like, and one, or like being upset about calls and fouls and stuff. And then, we get like pretty lit while still doing our jobs, of course, like during a game. So it's fun to watch games with us. We're not just like robots, like really focused on tweeting and stuff. And I'm sure some social media people on other teams are like that. Like we like to have fun in addition to, putting out this content.
Right. I think we've had Chuck and Adam talk about, they're genuinely excited with those big plays, and they'll tone their voice down if the team's kind of doing bad, but it's like not a like robotic response to the whole game. So that makes sense that you're able to cheer for big plays, and I couldn't see somebody expecting you guys to just be quiet.
No, because I think part of what makes our content team, really good at what we do is that like we're all fans. Um, and we think like fans, right? Like I think sometimes you might think of a company like the Bulls as being this global brand and recognizable brand. And then maybe you'd think like it's like super corporate and like super serious, but at the end of the day, and I think that's like been a theme of our conversation, is like it's really all about the fans. And if we're able to like be fans and be our authentic selves in our job, like I think that's the best way to go about it, right? Because if we think like fans, like we can put out the best content that the fans will enjoy and stuff. So try never to lose sight of that. There's always a lot that comes within a season. I genuinely believe like sports, the Bulls, like if you took away the fans, like then why do you do it, right? Like whether it's like a really good season or even like a tough season. It's tough because Twitter and social media can be a toxic place sometimes. When I first got to the Bulls in 1920, Bulls weren't that good. You saw a lot of kind of mean tweets, a lot of like stuff in the mentions that weren't so nice. I always try to go back to the fact that like if your season's not going well and you have a lot of like angry fans in your Twitter mentions and stuff, it's at least comforting to know that they care, right? They're passionate about the team. And I'd rather have like, if I'm part of a team that isn't doing well and like the fans are being mad on Twitter, I would rather have that than like fans who don't care, right? Who don't say anything, who don't respond with memes or say nothing. Now I don't support like, some fans will like tweet at players and stuff like after like a bad game. Like that's I think kind of out of bounds and like that's super uncalled for, but like tweet at the team account, like that's fine with me. At least you're watching, at least you care, like you only want what's best. Like I understand as a growing up a Magic fan, I saw some tough you know Magic teams. I know exactly what it's like, though I would never like tweet some of the things that I see sometimes, but it's better that a fan base you know cares and they're passionate rather than being indifferent. I think in a fan base that's indifferent, like that's almost the worst thing you can have.
Yes.
We talk about that too. The fact that everybody was extra upset when we would lose last season. Just it's good that we were upset because we expect more now. So that's really exciting. And Camille was kind of touching on that too, like how tough it could be sometimes with people on social media and what a toxic place it could be. Like, did that ever get to you? Or I know you're coming from a place of understanding as a Magic fan
Yeah.
too.
Well, I also saw it when I was at the Atlanta Falcons. I was lucky enough, like we went to the Super Bowl my first season. Um, didn't win the Super Bowl. That was like the infamous 28-3 Tom Brady Super Bowl. So I was a part of that as well. And then when I was in Atlanta, we had a couple of tough seasons. losing seasons. Does it get to you? I think that's something I've learned to manage in my career as somebody who's, living in the mentions, living on social media. Sometimes the best thing for, somebody like me or anybody in my position is one, not take it personally, right? Like if I'm like reading like tweets after a 20-point loss or something, like I know they're not talking about me and they might be talking about, the team and the organization, but not taking it personally in the fact that like, you know, they're fans. They spend money, they spend time, like, being with this team, like they really just want to know what's best. Um, Part of it is like that mental health piece, right? Like for me, I have to make sure like my own sanity and my own mind and my own body is in a good place before like I jump into like a conversation or like the mentions where you just kind of see a lot of like negativity sometimes when things are going bad. Or I mean, the flip side is like when things are going really good. The Bulls started, we were like what, 26-10 at some one point last season. Like the mentions were great then. You saw like the best memes, like the best reactions, like the best gifts and whatever. For me as a content professional, it's important to know that like that stuff is exciting, but for me, I shouldn't get too high after a win and I shouldn't also get too low too. The best way for me to handle it is kind of just be even keeled. So it is tough. And I think a lot of people, who tweet me and stuff at the accounts probably don't consider that. And honestly, I probably shouldn't expect them to. Um, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's way better to be passionate than to not care at all.
Speaking of, you talk about mental health, and you say you like running and training for the Chicago Marathon. Was that something like you picked up to help mental health, or is it something that you've always done with like running marathons?
Now, last year was my first one. Running the Sunday will be my second one. I think me personally, I think everybody runs marathons who does run a marathon does it for different reasons. I just personally, part of it was I needed something that I needed to dedicate my time to that wasn't work. And I say that as like I love my job. I'm super blessed to be in this position. I'm not selling like insurance or doing anything like that. Like this has been a blessing. A lot of my time is dedicated to the Bulls. And right now I wouldn't have it any other way. But I also needed like that thing that like I could dedicate my time to and be super passionate about that wasn't the Bulls. And that became like running and marathon training for me. I also I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. I think for other people that maybe like the outlet, right? Um, so it's like almost sad for me that like the marathon's gonna, I mean, it's happening this Sunday and it's gonna end because now I gotta like find another thing, and I'm sure I'll find something, or I could keep running even if the marathon is over with. Um, but I think with with anybody in any job, like it's so important to have that thing, whatever it is for you, yoga, video game, something that like really soothes your soul, in order for you to be the best version of yourself.
Right. Like even if
Balance.
you work for the Bulls, you still need to have that time for yourself. So definitely.
So what do you how are you gonna prep for the marathon? What's your pre-race meal like? You gonna be carb loading?
So part of it, one, part of me was thinking, should I wear a Bulls jersey when I run? Like that'd be
You
pretty
know.
dope. To, like wear like whether it's like a Zach jersey or a Caruso jersey or like a Joakim jersey. Um, I'm not gonna do that because I'd want something like a little bit lighter. But I mean, I'm sure your listeners don't want to hear like my whole marathon spiel, but I've been training for this like all year. I'd like to think that if like I can like photograph these really top shape athletes, like professional athletes, like in the top 0.01% of like what they do, I can train for a marathon and not even like win it or anything, but even just complete it. Like to me, I should be able to do that and feel like I am in somewhat the same athletic, you know, stratosphere as some of these guys. But I have a training plan, or I've been following a training plan. Um, basically the big thing for me is like I'm just drinking a lot of water, right? That's like the big thing. I'm just staying hydrated before Sunday.
Makes sense.
Right. I
So
mean,
going to Bulls trainers and asking them any questions or anything like that.
No, I mean that's a good idea. I've talked to them a little bit about it. It was funny. John Paxson actually came up to me in practice the other day and it was like, uh, he was like, "Oh, like I heard you were running the marathon," and he only knew that because I have these running shorts that are like kind of short. I'm not gonna lie, it's just like what I like wearing to practice sometimes. Um, I think on Saturday I did a training run. I did an 8 mile run, and then right after I went to practice, so I like just had these shorts on, and then he saw me, and then I think he asked somebody, he's like, "Is he a runner? Like, why is he wearing those shorts and stuff?" But he came up to me and he told me how one of his sons did a marathon, um, I think a couple years ago in Washington D.C. But no, that's a good idea. I should could use all the advice I can. Running a marathon like low key sucks, but it's super rewarding if any of you ever decide to do one.
yeah,
It's
the
definitely a game.
Bulls fans see a little bit of your running skills from the Lollapalooza skit where you took the guy's jersey and ran off.
Yeah, that was a that was a fun video at Lollapalooza. We gave away these jerseys. And it's funny in the TikTok, people were saying like those jerseys look so fake. Those are fake Bulls jerseys. Those are like $15 jerseys. I was like, one, those are special jerseys. This wasn't explained in the TikTok because we just wanted to go straight into the video, but these were like special Bulls partnership with Lollapalooza like jerseys, and they like sold out at Lollapalooza. Like they were a hot item, for sure. Um, but that was like the first time we did a TikTok like that. I love TikTok. I love Billy Eichner, who is like a comedian. He does these Billy on the street videos where he just like goes up to random people in like New York City and like just ask them random questions. That was kind of the inspiration for that. And that TikTok ended up doing very well. We're gonna do some more of that this season and give away actual jerseys this year. So stay tuned. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I thought the jerseys were pretty sick.
Yeah, we gave some away on Twitter. Everybody just has jokes, especially working in social media. Twitter always has jokes, even in the most serious of moments, whether it's like sports or not sports. Um, you can always count on social media, especially on Twitter, to bring the jokey jokes.
Yeah, definitely. Always like with the Vooch hate and the Vooch jokes, and we've been here defending him the whole time. So it's interesting to hear you say that you watched him like his whole career, being a Magic fan. You, when they made that trade, like, did you help facilitate it?
No. I remember during that trade deadline, I mean, I was like following like all the rumors, what people were saying. We don't get any inside information. I don't know if people think we do, but we get like nothing. We find out almost everything from like Woj and Shams and whatnot. That's just like the reality of it because they're just so on top of it. Woj tweeted that we traded for Vooch, and obviously like I was like super excited, like not just because I was a Magic fan, but I just like know how good he is. And I think a lot of people, obviously he probably didn't have the best season last year and didn't like, shoot the best. I think he said that in media day. A lot of it was just adjusting to a new situation and a new team, going from the Magic where he's like the guy and all the plays are being run through him in the post to like, you know, being more so on the 3-point line and getting the ball kind of different spots. But I will say like it was so encouraging to watch him play last night or in the first preseason game against New Orleans. He was like blocking Valanciunas' shots. He was like hitting threes. I think he's added like, I mean, he's always been like a good post player, but I think he's gonna have a better season than he did last year for sure. I am the Vooch stan in our digital team. I love Vooch. I do not appreciate any Vooch slander that I see on Twitter.
No Vooch slander allowed. All right, Nico, thank you again for coming on. You want to like plug any of the Bulls accounts or
Sure. I bet everybody listening to this, I know y'all all follow the Bulls. Um, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, bulls.com. Read Sam Smith's articles. I know, like, you know, my generation or even Generation Z and all the kids maybe don't read as much as we used to, but I think Sam Smith's articles and mailbags, those are 100% worth reading. Like, join our Twitter community, join the Discord. Um, Go on Reddit, be involved with the Bulls however you can. Like, I just, growing up a basketball fan, I know how special it is to be a part of like a fan community. And it's just so much fun, and you create like lifelong memories. And as like somebody, as a member of the Bulls organization, like we hope to like keep engaging with the fans, especially online, like a lot more this season. So super excited for the season. Appreciate y'all having me. I'll talk to Sam Smith about him being the next guest. He'll be a lot more entertaining, like no lie, than I will. So thanks again for bringing me on.
Nico, you were great. We got to talk later because I got family just outside of Orlando in Eatonville. So I know that there's some spots that you could tell me about because I'm about an hour or so away from Orlando right now. So please come back on the show. We had a great time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure y'all plan on going to Bulls games this year, but if y'all ever, if there's ever a particular game y'all want to come to, you guys know where to find us. So yeah, we'll definitely connect, Justin, but y'all too as well.
Appreciate it.
appreciate it and
Great
good
time,
luck
Nico.
on the marathon.
Thank you. Go Bulls. Appreciate
Go
y'all.
Bulls.
All right.
Yeah, and so that was our interview with Chicago Bulls digital content manager Nico Tan. And we give a huge shout out to Nico because he competed in the Chicago Marathon yesterday. He completed it in under 4 hours. So big shout out to Nico.
See, that man has ice in his veins. He did.
I mean, yeah, shout out to Nico. He had ice in his veins completing that marathon. Dre also had ice in his veins.
100%
For going
from the
3 for
three-point
3
line.
from 3.
100%. 100%.
So yeah, we're talking about bits and pieces from last night's game. Obviously, Dre going 3 for 3 from 3, ice in his veins, Justin. But what else did you guys see that you liked from that game?
Woo, of course. Woo went crazy. He just it's always he always has energy. He always brings even the intangibles, even if like the stats aren't crazy high, he always brings the intangibles. The energy is enough. And he comes with energy and effort every time he's in. So but yesterday's game, he went nuts. He went bananas.
Yeah, we were down like 10 at the half. Derrick Jones Jr. started with the normal starters. That second half, they started Javonte instead of DJ, and we took over the game. And it goes back to the game before where Javonte started instead of Pat, where we just like kind of ran the Nuggets out the gym. We like put it on the clinic, and his energy that he gives the starting lineup, it's got people talking some trash about Patrick Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm noticing too. It's more people are really giving up on P. Will, but the conversation is like who should start between the two of them, which is interesting. And is the fact that Javonte is doing this good and started is that indicative of a not so great outcome for Pat Williams, or is it just saying that Javonte is really good? Which is it? Are we disappointed in Pat Williams? Are we not trusting him? Is he going to be coming off the bench now? Who knows? What do you guys think?
I think that a lot of people are really kind of overstepping like when I assess value to a player, and their relationship to whomever they're sharing the court with, I always got to start with who's making the most money. You know, where is P. Will in the scheme of the breakdown of the money? Because if you're looking at the breakdown of the money, he's low on the totem pole. You know, we need to have our best players who are making the most money play at their best. Now, as much as people have been like getting on Williams, he has been playing very solid defense. I think that's something that's being overlooked by people. And we really need for him to be solid defensively to kind of make up for not necessarily deficiencies with Vooch, but as far as like cleaning up some areas that he can't help. Like Vooch isn't going to get more athletic. So we need for P. Will to go in and D up some of the more athletic forwards, and even possibly, you know, if he needs to switch out on some centers, use his length and athleticism to really like cause some problems for that. I don't think that it's a matter of like I think what it is people are seeing the energy that Green is coming in with, and they're mad that they don't see necessarily that energy from P. Will, and I think that's just going to be something that is going to have to be monitored throughout the year. You do need those guys who are going to come in and create a spark plug. But for right now, if P. Will gives me like 10 points and I don't know, 6-7 rebounds, I'm fine with that as long as the rest of the starting lineup is doing what they need to do.
Start Javonte Green.
I knew that was coming.
The expectations are really high because he was what, fourth pick too? But I don't know. He barely played last season too, so I'm also trying to have a little bit more patience with it. But he didn't look so great at all. He hasn't looked good.
Well, the thing is, okay, if you start him, let's say you start him, and then Green does very well, like he's doing what he's normally been doing, and then you insert Pat in there with that second unit, and Pat starts to falter. Where are you going to go from there? Like, it's easier to like start him. If he's not coming out with a lot of energy, then you put Green in there to provide some energy, and then like just kind of stagger, you know, those minutes. But if like he's not performing with the second unit, what are you going to do then? Like that's one of my concerns. I think like he needs to build his continuity with those starters and understand the role so that when you do shift him back to the second unit to help kind of lead that offense on that second unit, or at least, you know, be a key contributor on that second unit, he has that mindset of, okay, I'm the guy going in. But if you just like automatically demote him for a guy that's not very demonstrative or hasn't shown himself to be demonstrative in his early years, that can have like a negative effect on him. So that's what my main concern is.
And I say again, start Javonte Green because the starters need the energy that Javonte brings. Patrick, that's just not who he is. He's not a fire starter. It's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying like P. Will, we should give up on him or anything like that. Just Javonte fits better with the starting group, even though he's 6'4" and we're playing small for Javonte, but the way he cuts, the way he moves without the basketball, it allows him to catch people off guard because you're looking at Zach and you're looking at DeMar and you forget about Javonte. You're running around, moving without the ball, and before you know it, he's at the basket and he's dunking on somebody. He's worked on his three. He's been knocking that down. According to stats from the NBA, he has the best true shooting percentage out of anybody that's played in preseason so far. Patrick had a very bad game yesterday. He looked good with the bench the first game that they started Javante. He didn't really look good with the starters when he played with the starters that first preseason game. What stuck out to me is like Patrick Williams started that first game. He put up, I think it was 15 points. It was 5 points. It's like 5 points. Javante put up 15 off the bench. You start Javante, he gives you 18. Pat gives you 11 off the bench. Pat looks more comfortable to me coming off of the bench. And what he said in his interview, it made it sound like that because he's like, when you're starting, you're out there to help Zach and help DeMar because they're all stars. You come off the bench, it's whoever has it going. He should have the same mindset starting or coming off the bench. It should be whoever has it going. Because you're helping Zach and DeMar if you're playing like, hey, I got to go in this game, I'm going to go. You can't go out there and say, the All-Stars have it. I'm starting with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say start Javante.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about last episode too. It's like, where is he going to get his confidence from? Because he's still deferring to the other players. Is he going to gain more confidence coming off the bench? Hopefully, I don't know. Is this going to demotivate him coming off the bench because he possibly would lose his starting spot? I don't know, but I don't know how he can change his mindset. I think so much of it has to do with his confidence. Like you saw a couple of games last season where you could see he was playing confidently, but it took him a few good plays to get there. And when he was there mentally, he was going off, but he's just deferring to the rest of the team, to the stars. So he just needs confidence. Like as much as DeMar has been in his head, how much more, where else are you going to get that from? It's got to be from within, of course. And that's what he needs to get going. I don't know. He's got potential.
He does have potential. We thought Lori had potential, and that's why certain fans are turning on Patrick Williams because they don't want this to turn into another Lori Markkanen situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get what you all are saying about the energy and everything, but I don't want to like just put that all on Patrick. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you all saw like how they came out in that first game. And granted, people were saying, "Oh, it's just preseason," but you noticed that there was a noticeable change in the amount of effort and awareness that they came in with that second game. And that awareness wasn't necessarily tied to what Williams was doing. I think people were noticing it more because the entire team was not playing with the sense of awareness. For example, in that second game, you did not see, like in the beginning, you did see like some guys going to ISO with DeMar and with LaVine. And there was even one occasion where I was like, what are you doing with LaVine? I'm just going to take a step away from P. Will for just a second. There was like a set where LaVine had the ball and Vooch was calling for a post. And LaVine got his man off the dribble and he went directly to where Vooch was, which tied up like the ball between him and Vooch. He passed it out to DeMar, and DeMar made this like crazy shot. I think it was like a left-handed shot, and the crowd was all into it. But it was like that awareness factor of like, why are you changing up like a clear like mismatch that you have instead of like you were settling for trying to create something off the dribble instead of going like with the play that made the most sense. Then you started to see the team start to have more of an awareness of, hey, let's get Vooch involved. And I'm talking about in that second game where they were playing against Denver. They started to realize, oh, wait a minute, there's no center that's really capable of guarding Vooch right now. So we're going to establish a lot of the offense with him. and then start kicking it out and moving it around the perimeter, setting up your 3-point shots. That awareness led to another occasion when Gordon had the ball, and it was Ayo who was guarding him. LaVine noticed quickly that there was a mismatch there, and LaVine just went and double teamed him, like right as he touched the ball. It was that awareness that was the team that was, trying to get them going. And then you started to see like Pat do a couple of things that was starting to get him going. I understand what you all are talking about as far as like bringing the energy, but that needs to be something that also the other players are playing with too, that sense of energy. And I think that this is the time period where they have, the preseason to kind of work on that. But to totally like take that role away from him and not allow him to at least try at the beginning to grow into that role could be a detriment to him later on, especially if this is a team that you're thinking is going to get into the playoffs and try to make some noise. I don't want him to get lost in the shuffle with that. That's my only thing. I understand what you all are talking about with energy and everything from him, but I think that also you got to remember that that has to be a team concept that everybody has to buy into as well.
It's Billy buy into it. See, it's interesting that it was all this. We don't really know who the starting point guard is. We'll probably use preseason and try a couple different lineups. Ayo started every game at point guard. Patrick Williams has started 1 out of the 3 games played at power forward. We have one more preseason game tomorrow against the Bucks. Yep. Does he go back to Patrick? Does he go back to Javonte? And Billy, another thing, when Billy was talking to the media, he said it's not Patrick's fault that he was drafted at number 4. That's kind of like, yeah, we drafted him high, unfortunately. So the question is, what does Billy think about that?
Kind of says too that like where people are just putting their expectations on him way too high when he said that too. It's like what it translates to. I don't know. I kind of do want to see him start tomorrow, because if it's going to be any time, we want it to be during the preseason where it doesn't necessarily matter if we win or lose. We just want to see what works. So I actually would really love to see people start tomorrow. That's what I want to see.
I think Billy needs to kind of like pick and choose his words a little bit wiser, because the front office is the one who made that pick. So when you're making comments like that, well, front office is the one who picked them that high when there were other players that could have been taken. So like, you gotta be careful with the words that you're using. But I'm with Melissa. Like, give him like, a couple of games. Even if like he comes out and he's doesn't necessarily hit shots, but he's like more aggressive. If that's something that you can pick up with him and carry over into the season, I think that could be something that's better, that kind of lights a fire under him, as opposed to, hey, just settle in with that second unit. Because that second unit has guys who are going to come out there and are going to just, like we saw, they're going to blitz people. Like Caruso is going to blitz people. Drummond, he's coming hard with like setting screen, grabbing rebounds. Ayo is going to be a part of that second unit in some way. You know that they're going to stagger minutes with some of the starters too. So that's why I don't want him to get lost in the sauce, so to speak. So I say give him a couple more games to, get his level of aggression up.
Well,
Javonte is coming.
As I said, tomorrow is our last preseason game. It's at home against the Bucks. You would think, like, usually the last preseason game, the starters like play starters minutes, and you kind of have that rotation that you're going to roll out for the opener.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that Billy would start Patrick. I could also see him starting Alex Caruso at 4, because he started some games last season at the 4, and he's been changing it up every game. Would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, also too, we had him guarding Giannis last year during the series or playoff series. I don't know. Hopefully he starts tomorrow. That's what I want to see for sure. At least tomorrow, at the very least. I really want to see him start tomorrow. I want to see where his head's at.
I want him to come in and just like as soon as Grayson Allen like touches the ball, I just want to see him foul him hard. That's the P will that we need. Just go out and just start fouling people hard. But no, I thought honestly in that series, even though Giannis had like just an awesome series versus the Bulls, I thought that Patrick was like holding his own defensively, like he was doing as well as anybody who was out there. So that was something that was encouraging, and that is something that I think you can actually lean on a little bit more, just getting him more active defensively and just getting his awareness up that way. Defense and running the court, that's what we need to see. But in that first game, no one was running in preseason. They were just like stuck in quicksand until, like I think 8 minutes in the third quarter, that's when guys started getting out and you saw Terry, finally get in there, and his awareness is always up. But it's just a mindset that everybody has to buy into. And if you see those starters, the guys who are making the most money, buy into that concept of coming at people defensively and running, I think that could have a big effect on P. Will too.
At the very least, you want to see all the young bucks put forth effort, at least defensively, even though it's preseason. At the very least, I wanted to see that. The first game, I don't know, but I wouldn't have expected that from like obviously from LaVine or DeMar, but at the very least, you wanted to see that from the youngins, and of course, you're going to see that from the people fighting over a spot.
Yep.
But
Dalen Terry is going to take minutes from Kobe White.
mm-hmm.
If he's hitting 3-pointers, like there in that last game, there was like a guy who went out to guard him, and he just had like this step back 3-point shot. Like he just shot it without any type of fear or hesitation whatsoever. And I don't care if he never takes a 3-pointer, to be honest. But his aggressive style can play with anybody. Like that's a kid that is going to be able to, if he just harnesses that shooting, that like a lot of people are going to have to watch out for their job in the next couple of years, maybe even this year. Like you mentioned with Kobe, like I have been so not surprised, because he was one of the few players that I actually did see in this past year's draft, but he stepped it up. Every single game that he's been in, he has stepped up with something. Like his awareness is just off the charts, and he's just everywhere on the court. It's just, I don't see how Donovan keeps him on the bench. I just really don't.
No, like he should be playing, and he doesn't have to take any threes because we have number 3 for 3 from 3 for 3 with ice in his veins.
I like the way you bring it around full circle. You still.
Why were you the only one that didn't do it? Come on, Jess.
No. First of all, my arm's too long. Like you're not gonna understand what I'm doing with this long reach that I have. So, but
you
no.
think I got short arms?
It's not that I think. I know you have short arms.
Hey, shots fired.
So yeah, hopefully Patrick Williams starts tomorrow.
So catch your hands though.
Because our next guest is going to be a family member of Patrick Williams. So be on the lookout for that episode. Until then, go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Bulls.
Let's go.
Still do it. Okay, I'll do it. All right. There you go.
horn blows.